As you can no doubt see, this is a rather large box wrapped in duct tape. And this rather large box arrived on my doorstep just this morning after a couple of weeks of rather convoluted fannying about. And that's the story that I'm going to tell you as this video unfolds. But of course, you're probably well aware of what's in this already, as I'm pretty sure you will have looked at the thumbnail or at least the title. So I'm not going to insult your intelligence by wasting any more of your time. Let's get this unboxed and see what it's all about. Oh yes, would you look at that? This is a Cooler Master CM690 MkII PC case from 2011. And as you can probably tell from this rather snazzy green branding and the rather cool case window on the side, this is part of a collaboration between Cooler Master and the GPU manufacturer Nvidia. And this case was specifically aimed, if you hadn't guessed, at gamers. So there's a focus on airflow, on cable management, and in particular SLI, multiple GPU setups, which were quite big at the time. Now, I first spotted this case in the Retro Computer Museum in Leicester a couple of years ago, and I've had it on my eBay watch list ever since. And I'm very, very pleased to report that I managed to grab this for just a touch over £50. Now, we won't talk about the shipping because shipping doesn't count, does it? But yeah, I'm also very lucky because there was a whole fiasco with the courier, and eBay's support basically told the seller that because the original courier couldn't find his house, that the correct solution would be to cancel the whole sale and relist the thing. So I was very lucky not only to grab this in the first place, but also to jump on the relisted version of it. But here we are, the CM690 MkII, a case that I have been wanting for the longest time. This is a really, really nice example. It's in fantastic condition. It's arrived unscathed, which is great. And also, this is the later revision of this case, which has USB 3. The original one only had USB 2, so, you know, for those front ports. So, yes, I am very pleased indeed to finally get my hands on this. So, let's have a bit of a closer look around this case and see what it has to offer. But first, I'd just like to say a very quick thank you to this channel's sponsor, PCBWay.com. PCBWay has been in the business of PCB fabrication for 11 years now and has built quite the reputation for fast turnaround times, low cost and high quality. But did you know that they've also recently started offering additional services, including 3D printing, CNC machining, injection molding and sheet metal fabrication? Well, if any of those are a requirement for your next project, please do check out the link to PCBWay.com down in the description. And once more, a big thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring ctrl-alt-rees. I do love a good old-fashioned teardown, don't you? And I think before we take this side panel off, we should probably check out this top panel because this is quite interesting and this has a couple of features that I haven't seen on PC cases before. First and foremost, the elephant in the room being this rather interesting panel here. And all credit to the previous owner for not losing this, because if this was my case, I probably would have lost that at some point. Yeah, this is a SATA port or a SATA port. Serial ATA hard drives. Looks like you should be able to fit a 3.5-inch drive in there. Of course, 2.5-inch. And I have no idea what the gaming use case for this is. I mean, if you work in IT, I guess it's quite useful for imaging drives and stuff. I'd certainly find it quite useful here in the studio, but I'm not really sure. Please do let me know down in the comments if you've owned a case with this feature and have used it for something useful in the past. Yeah, I mean, moving on from that, of course, we have the bog standard PC case stuff. We've got the reset button, we've got the power button, we've got 4 USB ports here, so that's 2 USB 2 ports and 2 of those super speed USB 3 ports, which would have been quite a big deal at the time. And I guess the reason they mixed the port types is because the motherboards of the time didn't support a large number of USB 3 ports. So to be able to offer lots of ports on the case, makes sense to chuck a couple of USB 2 ports in there as well. We've got the 3.5mm front audio connectors here. So we've got the microphone and headphones, nothing unusual there. We've got the LEDs, the power and the hard drive activity LED, again, completely bog standard stuff. And we also have this button here, which has what looks like a little light or maybe a fan I think it's a light, and I think this is probably the button that turns the case lighting on and off. Not quite sure if that's included with the case and built into it, or something that we need to add ourselves. Of course, we'll find out in a second when we take the side panel off. So let's do that now. That's the benefit of a standing desk, as I'm sure you can see. I don't need to mess around with the tripod and raise that up. I can just lower the desk and we can fit the whole thing in shot. How useful. Right, is that straight? There we go. So I think this should be toolless by the looks of it. So just a couple of screws on the back. Try not to lose those. That lovely green Perspex case window there. As you can see, there are a few scratches and things in that, but yeah, hopefully they'll polish out relatively easily. And here it is. So pretty straightforward, I think. We've got two 3.5-inch drive bays here for your hard drives. How are they? Oh, well, that is rather nice. And they have built-in 2.5-inch caddies as well. I don't know if these came with the case. I'm assuming they did because they are Cooler Master branded, but that's nice. So you can put your modern 2.5-inch SSDs in here, which of course would have been quite the luxury in 2011. And we've got bays for 2 of those. And I guess you could take those out and just put your full-size 3.5-inch drives in there. Looks like we have the connectors for those front panel ports on there. So we've got the front panel audio, front panel USB, and what's this? Of course, that's your old school header for, oh, that's HD audio there. So what's that one? Oh, that's USB. Okay, so you've got USB 3 ports, USB 2 ports. That makes sense. And yeah, this is your HD audio header. We've got AC97 header on there as well. So that's nice to see. All of that supported. And one thing that you might notice is the way that the cables are all routed around the back here. So they go through these rubber grommets. These are looking a little bit perished, but they're not too bad. And they're actually all routed underneath the motherboard tray as well. So some really nice built-in cable management, which would have been quite a high-end feature back in 2011. Looks like we have... Oh wow, so that's instead of the drive bay screws. So for these 5.25-inch drive bays here, we've got 4 of those, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so it's got these locking things. So this is toolless drive removal. That is so cool. That's such a cool mechanism. I love the way they lock in. So I'm guessing there was probably one in the top bay here, and the previous owner has had a drive installed in there. They've also lost the front panel as well. These rather lovely mesh covers. But of course, this will need an optical drive in it if I'm doing a 2011 build. So that's not a problem at all. I get I don't know, a Blu-ray drive maybe? We have at the front an enormous 140mm fan. Is that? Look at that bad boy. That is so cool. I'll get a close-up shot of that so I can show it to you. But yeah, this clear Perspex fan, that is absolutely massive. And we also have some fans here on the case itself. I believe from looking at the spec that this actually came with the case. Perhaps this back one did as well, but these are 120mm fans as well. These are Cooler Master branded. As is that. That's also Cooler Master branded. Is that RGB? I don't think it is. I think that's just a bog standard fan. But yeah, loads of cooling, as you might expect from a gamer spec case. We also have the mesh on the bottom for bottom fans, if you want those as well. And we've got the space for a standard power supply in here as well. Of course, I guess the previous owner has taken that out. How many slots do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those. And we've got this one across here as well. Is this for... I actually have no idea what that's for. There's a kind of a vertical port as well. It's probably something really obvious, isn't it? People are probably shouting at me about that down in the comments. Let me know. I want to know what that is. Anyway, let's get this turned over. and see if we can see what this motherboard tray looks like, this cable management that all runs behind the motherboard. It's all a bit modern and fancy for me, I will say. Well, that is all rather nice and tidy, isn't it? So we've got some, hang on a second. We've got the standard fan connector there, and also a 2-pin connector coming from this top panel. So I wonder if that button actually controls the lights in this fan. That must have built-in lighting. I bet that lights up green or something. Unfortunately, I don't have a power supply in this system, so I can't test that. And that'd be quite interesting to see once we get this built up. But yeah, here's the back of the motherboard tray. As you can see, we've got those rubber grommets and things, all the cables coming through to the top panel connectors here. Nice and clean and tidy, all nice and black inside. And I will say, no sharp edges at all. These are all really nice kind of rolled edges, which is always nice when you're working on a PC case. Always a good sign of a good quality case. Yeah, I'm going to have a lot of fun with this. So, there we have it, the Cooler Master CM690 MkII PC case from 2011. And if you can't tell, I am pleased as punch to finally get my hands on one of these cases. I've been after this for the longest time, and this is such a lovely example as well. It is a credit to its former owner. And of course, I'm going to have to do this thing justice by turning it into an era-appropriate, top-of-the-range gaming PC. So, at the time, I had an Intel i5-2500K based system, which was the top of the range of that generation of i5 CPUs. So maybe I could pay homage to that, maybe build it around that, or maybe go all out and go for the i7. Not quite sure. I think it's got to be Intel, because of course Intel and Nvidia, that's the classic combo. Has to be Nvidia graphics cards, of course, in this machine. I don't think AMD would be appropriate. And speaking of GPUs, I think it's got to be an SLI setup as well, because that is what this case was designed for. Something I have zero experience with whatsoever. Not even sure if SLI is worth it, what the benefits are, but hey, I can find out and I can bring you along on that journey as well. And now we finally have that opportunity. So wonderful, wonderful stuff. Of course, this is going to be a bit of a longer running series on this channel. I'm going to need some time to do my research, work out which motherboard I need and stuff like that. If you do have any thoughts on that, please do let me know down in the comments, because I am far from an expert on this specific era of PC gaming. But yeah, so make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss further updates on this wonderful build. That's all I have for you for this video. Of course, I have to say a big thank you to my supporters on Patreon, Ko-fi, and of course my YouTube channel members as well. They get videos a little bit early and also ad-free, and they also help to fund cool projects like this, and you know, stuff that we get to be entertained by and learn all about on the channel. So thank you ever so much to you. But that's all I have for you for this video, so thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.